Hello, golden butterflies. Welcome back to the channel. Today, I want to send my sincerest, heartfelt condolences to the family of Lisa Marie Presley, who has recently passed at the age of 54. She was a singer, a songwriter. She was known mostly as the only child of Elvis Presley, the wife, the widow of Michael Jackson. She was an icon unto herself, and she will be greatly missed. So she died earlier today, just hours after her hospitalization, and I want to read a note from her mother. It says, "It is with a heavy heart that I must share the devastating news that my beautiful daughter, Lisa Marie, has left us," Priscilla Presley wrote. "She was the most passionate, strong, and loving woman I have ever known." So here she is as a baby, cuddling and, and laughing with her father, Elvis Presley. She was adorable, cutie pie. Again, here she is as a toddler, just full of smiles and joy. She was a beautiful, beautiful baby and a beautiful woman. So this announcement came just hours after her mother, Priscilla Presley, had confirmed that she was rushed to the hospital earlier today. Los Angeles County paramedics were dispatched to the Calabasas home at 10:37 a.m. following a report of a woman in full cardiac arrest. The property records indicate that Presley was indeed a resident at this specific address, so they were at her house. Paramedics arrived about 6 minutes later, and once they arrived, they performed CPR and determined that she, in fact, did have signs of life before taking her to the hospital in nearby West Hills immediately. So Presley was at the Golden Globes on Tuesday, and she celebrated Austin Butler's award for playing her father Elvis in the movie, and she called his performance mind-blowing. During a corporate interview with Entertainment Tonight, she says, "I really don't know what to do with myself after I saw it. I had to take like 5 days to process it because it was so incredible and so spot on and just so authentic that, yeah, I can't even describe what it meant." So just days before that, she was in Memphis, Tennessee at Graceland at the mansion where her father lived to celebrate her father's birth anniversary on January 8th. So she was out and about. Here she is with Michael Jackson. Here she is with her four children: Riley Keough, Finley Aaron Love Lockwood, and Harper Vivian Ann Lockwood. She's also with her son pictured here, Benjamin Keough. If you guys aren't familiar with her son Benjamin, I'm going to bring you up to speed right now. So here she is with a picture of her son, Benjamin Keough, who died by suicide in the year 2020. And she wrote an essay, and she published it in People magazine in regards to her heartbreaking death of her son, Benjamin. I'm going to read that to you now to honor her. Lisa writes, "Today is National Grief Awareness Day, and since I have been living with the horrific reality of its unrelenting grip since my son's death 2 years ago, I thought I would share a few things to be aware of in regards to grief for anyone who is interested. If not to help yourself, maybe to help another who is grieving. This is not a comfortable subject for anyone, and it is most unpopular to talk about. This is quite long, potentially triggering, and very hard to confront. But if we're going to make any progress on the subject, grief has to get talked about. I'm sharing my thoughts in hopes that somehow we can change that. Death is a part of life whether we like it or not, and so is grieving. There is so much to learn and understand on the subject, but here's what I know so far. One is that grief does not stop or go away in any sense a year or years after the loss. Grief is something you will have to carry with you for the rest of your life, in spite of what certain people or our culture wants you to believe. You do not just quote unquote get over it, and you do not quote unquote move on, period. Two, grief is incredibly lonely. Despite people coming in the heat of the moment to be there for you, right after the loss takes place, they soon disappear and go on with their own lives, and they kind of expect you to do the same, especially after some time has passed. This includes family as well. If you're incredibly lucky, less than a handful will remain in contact with you after this first month or so. Unfortunately, that is a cold, hard truth for most. So if you know someone who has lost a loved one, regardless of how long it's been, please call them to see how they are doing. Go visit them. They will really appreciate it more than you know. Three, and particularly if the loss was premature, unnatural, or tragic, you will become a pariah in a sense. You can feel stigmatized and perhaps judged in some way as to why the tragic loss took place. This becomes magnetized by a million if you're the parent of a child who passed, no matter how old they are, no matter the circumstances. I already battle with and beat myself up tirelessly and chronically, blaming myself every single day that's hard enough to now live with. But others will judge and blame you too, even secretly or behind your back, which is even more cruel and painful on top of everything else. This is where finding others who have experienced a similar loss can be the only way to go. Support groups that have your specific kind of loss in common. I go to them and I hold them for other bereaved parents at my home. Nothing, absolutely nothing takes away the pain, but finding support can sometimes help you feel a little bit less alone. Your old friends and family can and will run for the hills. The unrelenting reality is that you are forced into this horrendous club, and if you will, that you will never want to be or a part of, and that you are forced to then, for lack of a better term, have to go and find new people now. I now truly cherish the few that have stayed in here with us throughout this entire nightmare process from the onset. And I also now have come to love and cherish my newfound friends who are in this same club. If I'm being honest, I can understand why people may want to avoid you once a terrible tragedy has struck, especially a parent losing their child, because it is truly your worst nightmare. I can recall a couple times in my life where I knew parents who lost their child, and while I could be there for them when it happened, I avoided them after and never bothered to follow up with them because they quite literally became a representation of my biggest fear. I also low key judged them, and I swore I'd never do whatever it was that I felt they either did or neglected in their parental actions and choices with their child. Yet, here I am. I am now living what it's like to be that same representative to other parents. Obviously, no parent chooses this road. Thankfully, not all parents will have to become a victim to it, and I do mean victim here. And I hate to use that word, but now I know why. I've dealt with death, grief, and loss since the age of 9 years old. I've had more than anyone's fair share of it in my lifetime, and somehow I've made it this far. But this one, the death of my beautiful, beautiful son, the sweetest, most incredible being that I've ever had the privilege of knowing, who made me feel so honored every single day to be his mother, who was so much like his grandfather in so many levels that it actually scared me, which made me worried about him even more than I naturally would have. Just no, 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 no. It's a real choice to keep going, one that I have to make every single day, one that is challenging to say the least. But I keep going for my girls. I keep going because my son made it very clear that in his final moments of taking care of his little sisters and looking out for them were in the forefront of his concerns and his mind. He absolutely adored them, and they him. Thank you for reading all of this. I know how hard and triggering it is, but maybe let it trigger you to reach out to someone who needs it right now. rather than just triggering something bad. Written with all my love and my pain, most sincerely, LMP. We will miss you, Lisa Marie. Rest easy. You'll be with your son now and your father. Rest in peace. Take care, guys.